In the days of old, warriors roamed the battlefield with the wind in their hair, their boots firmly planted in the stirrup or on the march. In some ways, it was a simpler time, when weapons such as the sword, the saber, the lance, the bow and arrow. This was a time when these weapons were considered state-of-the-art. But somewhere along the line, a new era emerged. The era of gunpowder. Explosive, kinetic projectiles, hurling, sometimes far distances across the battlefield, sometimes plunging themselves into the meaty flesh of enemies. Now, for Age of Empires 2 DE, gunpowder is at an earlier phase in its development. It is not the ubiquitous battlefield determinant that we see today. But nevertheless, gunpowder can still be an effective option in your army. Now, because gunpowder is in its infancy in AOE2 DE, some civilizations had not yet developed the bullet, the rifle, the cannon. Yet other civilizations are much further along. Therefore, in this tier list video, we're going to try to understand which civilizations have the top tier gunpowder and have a range of options to defeat their enemies with this new and foreboding technology, which civilizations are more limited in the road they'll be able to take, and which civilizations are behind the curve of technological development. So join me on this tier list and let's go out there and get after it. Alright everybody, we got the best gunpowder civilization tier list about to come out. We're about to get into this thing. Now, I want to set this up, right? Talk a little bit. I ain't going to talk too long, right? There's not going to give a lot of preamble, though I am going to think about a few things, because again, it's always really important to me to give you a sense of what I'm thinking when I'm going into a tier list and the kind of factors that I'm going to be considering when in this. As you can see here, just from the setup, I'm actually going with a little bit different format here. Instead of S tier, A tier, B tier, and all that, I'm thinking about things in terms of stars. You know, we just had the Academy Awards, and you know, hopefully ain't nobody gonna come up here and smack me, but you know, hey, we'll see. The night is young. But I'm gonna think about it in stars, and part of the reason is it's just my feeling of the civilizations. I want to make sure and categorize civilizations to different areas, and basically with doing an S and then a bunch of letters, I just feel like it becomes a lot of letters, and I think that there is a decent amount of variation among gunpowder civilizations to where we need something that is a bit more easy to be chopped up, and I think going with sort of a star ranking here. And so, you know, we have our 5-star civilizations, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 3, and then I think once you start to get into the lower tiers here, I'm not going to do like a 2.5, a 1.5. Being a 2-star civ for gunpowder is already not that great. Being a 1-star is pretty much terrible. And then we have this last ranking at the bottom. Again, instead of calling it an F tier, right? These are going to be the civilizations that they really got no gunpowder going on at all. And it really doesn't seem fair to call them an F tier because it's really more of a not applicable. I thought about taking them out of the list just in general, but there are so many civilizations that get some kind of gunpowder that I think it is worth actually showing those. So having said that, I want to tell you about the gunpowder units that we're really going to be thinking about mostly in this video, and then we'll jump into it. So I'll explain them a bit. So the first thing is the Bombard Cannon, and this actually is in more of an ordinal order of how I'm going to be ranking them, right? It's more of an ordinal ranking here. Now, Bombard Cannons, right? I've talked about Bombard Cannons. I've talked about a lot of these units in other videos. So Bombard Cannons, we're going to rank them number 1. The reason we're ranking these essentially, right, we're putting them in kind of an order of importance Bombard Cannon is probably going to get the top spot here because you can see it in a lot of games, and in late game it can be a really decisive unit for your unit as a siege. I mean, the Bombard Cannon can be your mainstay siege unit of your army, right? So it can be a part in that sort of holy triad unit composition of gold unit, trash unit, siege unit. Bombard Cannons alone can take that spot. Now, that is pretty dependent upon them having access to the siege engineers technology, and that's going to increase how much damage it does to buildings. It's going to give it an extra range, which is really massive. So I think the Bombard Cannons are really only able to best be deployed in that manner as the siege weapon of choice in your army. I think siege engineers is, I don't want to say a necessary condition because you can do it without it, but it's very important. So if a Bombard Cannon does not have a siege engineers, we'll give a Bombard Cannon a pretty high downgrade. Now, next up, it's the number 2, but you might call it like a 1B, is the Hand Cannoneer. Hand Cannoneer, you make it from the archery range. It costs food and gold. I think it's 40 food, 50 gold, something like that. As you can see, it has a pretty high damage, decent range, even decent HP, actually. The thing about the Hand Cannoneer is that it does, I believe it's plus 10 or plus 11 damage, something like that. I think it's plus 10 against infantry units. So you could be doing a massive 27 base damage to infantry units. That's really important. You do often tend to see infantry units in a composition in a 1v1 setting, oftentimes because your enemy may make halberdiers to respond to knights or your camels. And many civilizations have infantry unique units. Champions are often used to counter basically any kind of trash units. And so hand cannoneers can definitely see some play. You may even use them as sort of a quasi substitute for arbalist. It's not a very good substitute for arbalist because it's nowhere near as accurate. It doesn't fire as fast, and the projectile is pretty quick, but I'm not actually sure if the projectile speed is quicker than an arbalist arrow, right? Maybe somebody in the comment section can get me on that, but that's not really important here. What is important is that over recent patches, the hand cannoneer has been buffed in a lot of ways. One of those ways was making the projectile of, whatever bullet that it fires, right, go faster. It got some more HP. It got a bit more accuracy. So the hand cannoneer is a unit that has been buffed recently, and it's not an uncommon thing to see it in gameplay. All right, the next, right, sort of ranking third on here is the Bombard Tower. Bombard Towers, you tend to see them you really tend to see them more in team games when gold is infinite in its supply because of the market, because Bombard Towers are very expensive. You can get a lot of damage out of them, and they're a good unit for sure, or a good building rather. And you could make them in a 1v1 setting, but they're extremely expensive. I think it's 100 gold and 125 stone. I might have those flipped, but either way, that's a lot, and you have to research the upgrade for it. You're having to research chemistry to get access to all of these anyways, and that is not only an upgrade that is expensive itself, but it takes a long time to get to. So Bombard Towers, I think, are much more situational in team games when you're trying to take map control to prevent enemy advances and, say, keep your trade safe and things like that. So Bombard Towers definitely have their uses, but it's going to be pretty difficult to get to it in a lot of cases, so it's going to take a third seat here. I think pretty far behind Bombard Cannons and Hand Cannoneers for my taste. And then lastly, in terms of the sort of standard gunpowder units, the Elite Cannon Galleon. Elite Cannon Galleon, almost every civ has the regular Cannon Galleon. The American civs don't. I think Huns and Cumans are the other ones that don't. Just have even the Cannon Galleon. Not every civilization gets access to the Elite Cannon Galleon, and the Elite Cannon Galleon is a pretty nice improvement over the Cannon Galleon, particularly in the fact that it does a lot more damage against buildings. I think Cannon Galleons do like plus 200, and Elite Cannon Galleons I think do plus 275. So it's a pretty massive increase there, and Elite Cannon Galleons are pretty expensive, so you're going to want to make sure that you're getting that value out of them. And the fact that you're able to bombard the shoreline with these guys is you know, you really want to be able to get the damage on those buildings. And the elite cannon galleon also has, I think it's an extra 2 range over the regular cannon galleon, which again, if you're doing a shore bombardment, right, that's really important. So the reason it's going to be number 4 is that it's really only a unit you would see made in an island setting. Even most hybrid maps are not going to lend themselves to the elite cannon galleon. So, you know, keep that in mind. But anyways, these are the 4 base units we would be looking at. Now, some civilizations have unique units that are gunpowder units, things like conquistadors, Hussite wagons, organ guns, Janissaries, that sort of thing. I will talk about those. I will include that in the civilizations ranking, but you know, not going to clutter the screen by putting all that up here. And so, right, with that being said, let's go ahead, close out of all these, and we're just going to go ahead, right, jump into the tier list again. You know, not too much preamble, and I'm just going to get my notes up here. Maybe get a little bit of hydration. 39 civs. I'd love to make these tier lists shorter. That really is my goal. But with 39 civilizations, tier lists just take a little while to get through. So anyways, speaking of that, maybe this one will be a little bit quicker because we have civilizations like the Aztecs. Aztecs are an easy, not applicable. You don't have access to any kind of gunpowder, so Aztecs are easy. Okay, next up, we're going to get to the Berbers. And Berbers actually, I think, are kind of surprising. I'm going to put them at 3.5 stars. Berbers have access to Bombard Cannon with siege engineers, fully upgraded hand cannoneers, and you get fully upgraded elite cannon galleons that also have extra speed, right? So cannon galleons are pretty slow in general. And so being able to get around the map a bit faster to get in position to make those shore bombardments can be really, really cool. The only knock on Berbers there with the elite cannon galleon is that you don't have access to shipwright, so it's still going to be kind of expensive to make. But you know, it's still a pretty good unit, and I think that, to me, that's worth 3.5 stars. All right, next up we have the Bohemians. And Bohemians, they're gonna be an easy 5-star civ. They have so many things going for them. For one, your hand cannoneers are fully upgraded, and they'll get a bonus that I'll tell you about in a second. But they also can be made in Castle Age because you can research chemistry in Castle Age. So hand cannoneers in Castle Age can be a really overpowering unit. You also get the Hoofnisa as an upgrade to the Bombard Cannon, which a Hoofnisa is, think of almost like a combination of it's like a Bombard Cannon with a higher blast radius, so it can almost act like a mini onager in some cases with epic range. It's really good. You get Bombard Towers with Bracer and Architecture, right? And so Bracer is going to give it a little bit extra range. Architecture is going to give it more HP. So those are really the 2 important techs for Bombard Towers that we want to keep in mind here. Elite Cannon Galleons. You have the Wattenberg Tactics that increases the speed of all gunpowder units, so that's fantastic. You have the Hussite Wagon as a unique unit that can be pretty difficult to stop in some cases. It does a decent bit of damage, it's a pretty tanky unit, and it protects units that hide behind it, right? It lowers damage against them, so really, I mean, you just add it up. This easy 5-star civ for the Bohemians. I mean, we could go on and on all day saying why, and you get your gold and stone mining upgrades for free. The gold mining being particularly important there, so easy S tier. Britons are going to have to go in the not applicable. You do get cannon galleons, but that to me isn't enough to really get you out of the non-applicable list because just so many civilizations get it. Yeah, I gotta say, Britons are pretty disappointing. You don't get elite cannon galleon, right? And that's the cutoff here, right? Is if you don't get Bombard Cannon, Bombard Tower, Hand Cannon, or Elite Cannon Galleon, we're going to put you in this X tier, right? It's kind of a not applicable tier, but it's also kind of a don't go there tier, right? So think of the X as don't go there. Okay. Next up, we have Bulgarians. Again, we're in a pretty similar situation here. Don't go there. You're not really getting much out of them there, right? No Bombard Cannon, Tower, Hand Cannoneer, or Elite Cannon Galleon. Next up, we have the Burgundians, and this list is getting a little, we're kind of working at the Poles here, but, well, not the Poles as in the Polish, but in terms of the Poles of the tier list, you guys know what I mean. Burgundians, I gotta say, I think that they're a 5-star gunpowder civ as well. You have fully upgraded hand cannoneers that do extra damage, right? All your gunpowder units do extra damage with Burgundians. So, Bombard Cannons, Bombard Towers with Bracer and Architecture, Elite Cannon Galleons doing extra damage. You have a great economy where even your farms can make you gold, just trickles of gold. I mean, this is a good civ, getting your eco upgrades earlier. Burgundians are a fantastic civilization. Now, the one knock against them is they don't have access to siege engineers, but having the extra damage on your bombard cannons, that sort of makes up for it. To me, it makes up for it enough to not drop them into the 4.5-star location. So, but I do think that makes it a little bit more close. But given that all their gunpowder units are doing so well, I think we just got to give it to them on that. So, 5-star civ. Next up, we have the Burmese, and the Burmese are pretty, well, Burmese to me are kind of tricky. So, I want to put Burmese at a 2-star, but, and again, keep in mind, it's not, these are, you never want to go for any gunpowder. You just want to, you just want to make sure that you understand the gunpowder units you have. Burmese do have Bombard Cannon with Siege Engineer, and that's pretty good. But you're missing hand cannons, and you're missing Bombard Tower, and you do get the Elite Cannon Galleon. You just don't really get a lot of, you don't really have a good gold bonus. You do get your wood chopping upgrade for free. That's a nice bonus, but to me, the wood chopping upgrade, I think has a lot more help with things like the smoothness of your build and saving the food cost on your wood upgrades, and I just don't see it as a great naval bonus for the Elite Cannon Galleon. It's going to save you some food for, well, you don't get hand cannoneers, so it's not really saving you food for Bombard Cannon. I guess Siege Engineers cost food, but I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot here with a 2-star, civ, if really the only good thing you're getting out here is a Bombard Cannon with Siege Engineers. Next up, we're going to look towards the Byzantines, and the Byzantines, I think the Byzantines are a 4-star. So you get fully upgraded hand cannoneers, which is nice. You get Bombard Towers with lots of hit points and Bracer, right? So they're really tanky. Fully upgraded Elite Cannon Galleon, and you do have Bombard Cannon, so you have all 4, right? The only thing with Byzantines, well, it's 2 things. One, you don't get Siege Engineers, and that to me would really, you can't be a 5-star civilization unless you had some other gunpowder advantage going for you, and Byzantines really don't, and that's my second point. You don't really have much of an eco bonus, and so given that you're missing Siege Engineers and an eco bonus to help you get there, I just don't see how we can elevate them any higher than a 4-star civ. Next up, we have the Celts, and, well, the Celts are lacking Bombard Cannon, Bombard Tower, Hand Cannon, and Elite Cannon Galleon. Sorry, guys, don't go there. Next up, we have the Chinese, and Chinese are going to be our first 1-star civilization. So you get Bombard Tower with Bracer, Architecture, and the Great Wall technology, giving it more hit points. That's pretty cool, but you're missing everything else. You're missing Bombard Cannon, you're missing Hand Cannoneer, and you're missing Elite Cannon Galleon. So you have one very situational gunpowder unit that really is only used in team games that are going to make it very, very late, way after trade has been already up and running, and you're trying to close out a game with map control. That to me is just so situational. It's got to be a 1-star. Next up, we have the Cumans, and Cumans, right, are not going to be in there. Don't go there. I'm sorry, you don't even get cannon galleons. I mean, literally 0 gunpowder. We should take these off the list completely, almost. But yeah, don't go there with Cumans. Put a big X in there. It's a big donut for Cumans. Next up, we have the Ethiopians. And Ethiopians are interesting. I'm going to give them a 2-star. So, you're missing hand cannoneers, bombard towers, and elite cannon galleon. But you do get... So, you get missing hand cannons, bombard towers, and elite cannon galleon. Sorry, not sure if I said that. But you do get bombard cannons, you do get siege engineers, and you do have the technology torsion engines, which increases the blast radius of your bombard cannons. And that can be very, very deadly. I think even though they've only got the one unit, it's so good. Their bombard cannon with siege engineers is going to be better than Burmese. And so that's important, I think. And to me, even though they only have the one technology, I would rank them at the same level as Burmese, right? Still, not a lot of gunpowder there for you to use. All right, next up we have the Franks. And Franks, I'm also going to stay in the 2-star tier here, but I gotta say it's even a little bit different. So Franks can get you bombard cannon with siege engineers. That's nice. You're missing bombard tower and elite cannon galleon, which, you know, is whatever. You get hand cannoneers, but you're missing the last armor upgrade. And you got to think about hand cannoneers. They're an archer unit. They're countered by skirms. They can be defeated by arbalists as well, right, if the range is far enough. And so missing archer armor upgrades is actually really important to keeping your hand cannoneers alive. And I think that's one of the reasons why you typically see Frank players when you're talking about getting rid of halberdiers. Say if you're making knights, you typically see throwing axemen, because it's just going to be a tankier, better unit for it. And you know, you are missing out on some bonus damage. But boy, somebody can really easily make skirmishers, and hand cannoneers are expensive, and you don't want to put them in a position where you're losing them a lot. So I think we got to keep them at the 2-star level. All right, next up we have the Goths. And Goths, I think Goths are tough. I think Goths also have to be a 2-star. I'm just looking at my notes here. So, you have fully upgraded hand cannoneers. That's great. You have bombard cannons, but you're missing siege engineers. And then you're missing bombard towers and elite cannon galleon. So, it's nice to have bombard cannons with Goths, especially... I think that the usage, though, for Goths, because you're missing siege engineers, it's not as good of a unit to take out buildings. What it really helps you do is that if you have all this infantry, it's going to help you take out, say, if your opponent is going for scorpions. And that is an important thing, right? To take out scorpions and onagers, it is nice to have that. But without siege engineers, you're just not getting there. Right, so I think it's a 2-star. You have some options, but that's still not great. Right, next up we have Huns. Huns and Incas, right? No gunpowder to speak of. Very easy day. Next up we have the Indians. And I think Indians are really, really interesting here, actually. I am going to rank Indians 3.5 stars. So... you get bombard cannons with siege engineers, which is nice. You get fully upgraded hand cannoneers, and you also have a bonus technology, Chatanyi. I don't know how you say it. Maybe it's Chautauqua. I'm not sure. But that gives your hand cannoneers an extra range. And that extra range actually matters quite a bit, because you got to think about it. It's not a very mobile unit. It's pretty slow. And so you want to be getting in those shots from as far away as possible. And you do so much damage in bulk with the hand cannoneer that to be able to do an extra shot into your opponent while maybe they're approaching could take down their HP by quite a bit. And so if you have other units involved, right, that are maybe helping to defend your hand cannoneer, maybe halberdiers, something like that, that can be really important for helping you to win fights. And the Indians, you also get the elite cannon galleon fully upgraded. The only thing you're missing here is bombard towers. And so for me, right, oops, actually I put them in the 4th tier. No, can't slide in there. Indians, right? Trying to sneak in there, right? You're a good gunpowder civ, but you're not quite on the Byzantines level. You don't have quite that variety. Gonna sit right next to the Berbers, right? Another good camel civilization, right? But, I mean, Byzantines aren't a bad camel civilization either, but Berbers and Indians are probably at the top of the list. And if you want to hear about camel civilizations, right, go check out my camel civilization tier list. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. Now, Indians, 3.5 stars. Okay, let's move on. Italians. Italians are one of the toughest on this list, and this might be a bit controversial. I'm going to put them at 4.5 stars. You get hand cannoneers. You get Bombard Towers fully upgraded. You get Bombard Cannons. You get elite cannon galleons. Your gunpowder units are all cheaper. Your researching chemistry is cheaper. You get the condottiero, which is like an anti-gunpowder huscarl, but doesn't quite factor here because you're going to be using it against gunpowder. So, but now you're getting everything, and you're getting a nice bonus reducing cost. So why 4.5 stars? The Bombard Cannons miss siege engineers, and I think siege engineers is just that important. That again, when you're thinking about making the Bombard Cannon the focal point of your siege composition, missing siege engineers just really, really stinks. And to me, the cost is very nice, but that's about the only thing you have going for you. The cheaper chemistry is decent too, right? This is pretty good, but it's still going to take a long time to research. I just think when you compare it, Italians, they're a great gunpowder civ. Like 4.5 stars is fantastic. I just think when you compare them to the 5-star civs, I think they fall off, right? I think they're not quite there. But if you disagree with me, go ahead and leave something in the comments, right? And let me know. Okay, next up we have the Japanese, and Japanese I think will slide into the 2-star. Fully upgraded hand cannons, fully upgraded elite cannon galleon, no bombard cannon, no bombard tower. It's close, but I think having fully upgraded hand cannons, that's still pretty decent. Khmer is the exact same story as the Japanese. Hand cannons, elite cannon galleon, both fully upgraded. Missing bombard tower. Okay. Next up we have Koreans. And Koreans were one that I gotta say, I really struggled with. I think at the end of the day, Koreans are a 5-star gunpowder civ. Look, your hand cannoneers get free armor upgrades. That's really massive, right? Because you may have a lot of archers or skirmishers on the field. You need to mass these guys up. Having the free armor, keeping that survivability going is really good. Bombard Tower, you get it fully upgraded. And, well, it might not be fully upgraded, but you do get Bracer at least. And more importantly, all Korean tower upgrades are free to research. So boom, you got the upgrade for free. You don't even have to research it. Fantastic. Your Bombard Cannons have siege engineers. Your elite cannon galleons are fully upgraded. Oh yeah, all of your wood costing units, I think it's a 20% discount. That's going to affect your Bombard Cannon and your elite cannon galleon. And both of those are very expensive units. So getting those wood cost savings is ideal. And not only that, but the turtle ship, right? A unique unit for the Koreans, a very powerful naval vessel. It's technically considered as a gunpowder unit. It's in that, has that armor class. You add all that together, it's a 5-star gunpowder civ. Okay, next up we have Lithuanians, and this was one that really surprised me as well. Lithuanians are they're going to be a 4-star. Fully upgraded hand cannoneers, fully upgraded bombard towers, fully upgraded elite cannon galleon. You get bombard cannons, so you have all 4. You're just missing siege engineers. And the fact that we compare it to a civ like Indians, right, that was missing bombard towers, Lithuanians get them, right? Bombard towers and all that versus not having siege engineers, it's tough, but I think you really got to love the variety of Lithuanians. And to me, having that variety of gunpowder units you can go for, right? Because again, just having bombard towers for that map control, they can be powerful. I think it's just enough to edge out the 3.5-star civs. All right, Magyars. Well, this is going to be easy. Magyars, right? Get Cannon Galleon, but you don't get any of the 4 units that I mentioned at the intro, so they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. All right, next up, looking at the 3-star civs, we're going to find Malay. It's going to be our first 3-star, actually. You get Bombard Cannons with Siege Engineers. Fantastic. You do get Bombard Towers with Bracer. That's pretty good. You are missing Architecture, so your Bombard Towers are going to be a little bit weaker on the HP. You get fully upgraded Elite Cannon Galleons. That's pretty nice. But you're missing Hand Cannoneer, right? And that to me is something, especially when we look at like Berbers and Indians. Missing Hand Cannoneer, that really takes away an option for you in late game when you have, big masses of infantry and... you are missing champion. You do get the trash 2-handed swordsman if you can get to it with Malay. But if you do run into a stronger infantry unit that can push that back, it can be kind of deadly. So, you do have Arbalist, and that's usually what you see for Malay. But again, this is not an Arbalist video. This is a Gunpowder video. And for that, got to put it 3 stars. Next up, we have Malians. And I think we got to stay in the 3 stars here. You have... Hand Cannons fully upgraded. Nice. You have Bombard Cannons. That's good, but no Siege Engineers, so that's going to take us down. And you don't have Bombard Tower, and you don't have Elite Cannon Galleon. Now, from the jump, this is starting to sound like a 2-star civilization. But what gets into the 3-star is the Malian bonus, where you have 30% longer lasting gold. That means you have so much gold. I really think that this bonus is one that's flying under the radar a bit. And Malians have so much gold in the late game. The late game is when you tend to be making a lot more siege. And so I think that economic bonus enough as a gunpowder civ, I think that's enough to make it C tier, especially given that you do have the hand cannoneers and you have the bombard cannons. Even though you don't have siege engineers, you do have the 2 most important units with a great eco bonus. That's sounding like a 3-star civ to me. Mayans, easy day. No gunpowder. Mongols as well, right? You don't get any of the 4 gunpowder units, right? You're going to get Cannon Galleon, but again, that's really not factoring into our analysis here. Right? Got to have elite. Mongols don't have it. Now, Persians are interesting. I think Persians are also a 3-star gunpowder civ. It's a pretty similar story to Malians in some way, right? Fully upgraded hand cannoneers, bombard cannons without siege engineers. The difference here is that while Persians like Bombard Tower, they do get elite cannon galleons. And their elite cannon galleons are going to be produced faster from docks because of the Persian faster working dock and town center bonus, which is great. But despite having a little bit more flexibility there, the problem for me is that you just really don't have a eco bonus that's turboing you into gunpowder. And the faster working town centers are nice, but that's something that helps your boom, and so it will indirectly help you have resources to get to siege. It's really tough. I think that Persians are probably one of the stronger 3-stars. But I still think it's not quite on par with Berbers and Indians. Okay, next we have the Poles. And wow, the 3-star civilizations are all kind of like lurking at around kind of near the mid to late part of the alphabet. Poles are going to have Bombard Cannons with Siege Engineers and Bombard Towers with Bracer, which is really nice. But you're missing Hand Cannoneers. You're missing Architecture, so those Bombard Towers are not going to be as tanky. You don't get Elite Cannon Galleon, so you're missing that if you wind up finding yourself in Islands play. And that's, we're missing some things with them. I think the fact that stone generates gold, so stone miners generate gold for your civilization, to me, that's what keeps them from falling into the 2-star. You can wind up having a decent amount of gold with Poles, right? So it's kind of like the Malians in that way, right? You're a little limited in your options, but you have enough there, and you have a nice eco bonus. I think that's going to get them in. All right, we'll keep them as a 3-star. Okay, next up we have the Portuguese. Portuguese are a good gunpowder civilization. And I think you gotta put them with the 5-star. So here's the thing. Hand cannoneers, fully upgraded. Bombard cannons, fully upgraded. Right? You get Bombard Towers. All right, again. Elite Cannon Galleon, again. But here's the thing. Right? You have Arquebus, which is, I believe it's your Imperial Age technology. It basically gives ballistics to your gunpowder units, so your gunpowder units are very accurate. That's a helpful thing. Portuguese, on all of their units, save gold. So that means that any of your gold units are going to be, it's a 20% discount. That's very, very awesome, right? Again, it's something that's kind of comparable to the Italians, though this is just gold. However, we're also getting performance bonuses with the Portuguese with something like Arquebus. And not only that, but your warships with Portuguese have more HP. And so your elite cannon galleons, which are also going to be more accurate, they're going to have more HP. The thing for me that takes Portuguese and puts it over the top here is that you get the organ gun, right? And the organ gun is your unique unit from the castle. And, well, it can be very strong, especially on closed maps. It doesn't have a lot of mobility, but it's pretty good, I gotta say. And I've always been pretty impressed by it. And so you add all that together, and to me, I think that gets you above the Italians, right? Because remember, Italians don't even have siege engineers. Portuguese definitely do. So we have a lot better quality, and we still have a really good resource saving thing with the gold, right? It's more important to save the gold because it's so finite, especially in 1v1s. Portuguese cut above the Italians there. Next up, we have Saracens, and I like Saracens a lot, actually. I think that they're a 3.5 star. You have Bombard Cannons, Siege Engineers, fully upgraded hand cannons, and elite cannon galleons. And then, right, the only thing you're really missing is Bombard Tower. Well, right, so you don't have access to all 4 like our 4-star civs do. But hey, you know what? You have some good options with the ones that you do have. That's more than a 3-star. That's 3-star civ. Right, excuse me. More than a 3-star. That's 3.5, right? Okay, whoop. Let me see. All right, still looking good. All right, let's move to Sicilians. Easy day, right? None of the 4 units we're interested in. Slavs, same. Spanish, ooh, it's pretty tricky. Italians look like they could use some company. But unfortunately for the Italians, they are not going to get it. So Spanish have Bombard Cannons with Siege Engineers, fully upgraded hand cannoneers, Bombard Towers with Bracer and Architecture, and your Spanish villagers build faster so you can really get those things down in the field. Their team game bonus where trade generates more gold also really helps with using Bombard Towers to take map control. But not only that, your gunpowder units attack faster, right? Your hand cannoneers do. They attack faster. And your elite cannon galleons have a faster projectile speed. This is really good. These are great performance bonuses. Now, I think even looking at that, you still might say, well, gosh, maybe though, you compare that with the cost savings of Italians. I don't know. Here's a Spanish ticket over the top. You have access to conquistadors, right? A mounted hand cannoneer, essentially. Very strong. One of the S tier, or you might say 5-star tier units. And that, to me, having conquistadors is what takes Spanish from possibly being a 4.5-star civ to a 5-star civ. Okay, next up we have the Tatars. I think Tatars go in the 3-star. You have Bombard Towers with Bracer, which is cool. No Architecture, so they're not going to have the HP. Fully upgraded hand cannoneers and elite cannon galleons are good. You are missing Bombard Cannon, so that really does kind of stink. It's already maybe kind of, I think that it's almost starting to get almost a 2-star. I think to me what saves the Tatars from falling is that you have the hill bonus where you do plus 25% damage from units attacking from a higher elevation. And you can really make this work on a decent number of maps. Any map with elevation. So take a map like Arabia, right? You know, if you are using Bombard Towers, right? If you are using hand cannoneers and you can get them on a hill, you could be doing a lot of damage. And so it would be really nice if the Civ had Bombard Cannons because, you know, oftentimes you are sieging an opponent from higher up. But I think that that's enough. I think it's already kind of a marginal 3-star anyways. And to me, the hill bonus, I'm pretty comfortable keeping it 3. Next up, we have the Teutons. Are the Italians going to get a friend in the 4.5-star tier? I don't think it's going to happen, at least not yet, right? I think Teutons are going to have to slide into the 4-star. So you have Bombard Cannons with Siege Engineers and the Ironclad technology, which grants them more melee armor. That can be really good because oftentimes, right, Bombard Cannons will be charged by an opponent and you're trying to get them away and sometimes doesn't survive. Ironclad could help it survive. You also get fully upgraded hand cannoneers. Now, you're missing elite cannon galleon, and so you don't have that option. I think that would take you down to 4.5. But to me, what takes it down to 4 is the fact that your Bombard Towers lack bracer, which means that they don't have the range that you want. Now, even though Teuton Bombard Towers are unique, sort of like at least it was in HD. I don't know if it's able to be done on DE, but you used to be able to put hand cannoneers in your Bombard Towers, and I think you would fire like extra balls from them. It's really, I mean, something that's kind of impractical for a game in most circumstances, but it's still kind of cool trivia. Nevertheless, I think that missing bracer, right? Because again, this is the thing about Bombard Towers. You really want to take map control. And having extra range will enable you to take map control much better. I think that missing missing that one range to me is important enough because it's limiting how much of the map you actually do control. I think it's enough to knock them out of 4.5 to 4 stars. But still a very, very good gunpowder civilization. Next up, we have the Turks, and I'm not even going to joke around with this one. It's too easy. You know, you have your Bombard. You actually do lack siege engineers with the Bombard Cannons, but the artillery technology, which now doesn't, I think, cost stone even, so it's a lot easier to get to, gives you +2 range. So that, I think, is not a bad trade-off because you can stay even further away from your opponent, much safer. And so it's pretty good there. Your Bombard Towers have bracer and they're affected by artillery. That's fantastic. Hand cannoneers are fully upgraded, so are your elite cannon galleons. And then additional bonuses, gunpowder units get more HP. They're created faster. The gunpowder technologies are cheaper, right? Which is fantastic. I think it's 50% cheaper. Maybe somebody can correct me on the number below. Free chemistry upon hitting Imperial Age means that you can get these units out in the field so much quicker. And you mine gold faster, so you're probably going to have a gold surplus when you hit that timing. And so Turks are all about early Imperial Age gunpowder play, and you have so many bonuses for it. So to me, it's an easy 5-star. All right, we're getting pretty close to the end here. Next up, we have the Vietnamese, and Vietnamese, I think, are going to be another one of our 3 stars. Your Bombard Towers have bracer, but no architecture, and no masonry, actually. So your Bombard Towers are going to be pretty easily destroyed by enemy trebuchets and Bombard Cannons. So that's really tough. Or enemy siege rams, for that matter. You do have Bombard Cannons with Siege Engineers, Elite Cannon Galleons fully upgraded, and you're missing Hand Cannoneers. To me, I think that there's actually a reasonable argument here to put Vietnamese in the 2-star because you also miss masonry. I think there's a reasonable argument. If somebody were to recommend it to me, I'd say, yeah, that makes sense. But for now, I think I'll go ahead and we'll just keep them in the 3-star, but with reservations. All right, last on our list, we have the Vikings. And Vikings, don't get Bombard Cannon, don't get Bombard Tower, don't get Hand Cannoneer. You do get Elite Cannon Galleon fully upgraded. I think it's a little cheaper too. That to me is enough to take them out of the don't go there and join the Chinese as the second 1-star civ. It's a bad gunpowder civ, but you're probably playing Vikings a lot on island map anyways, and so being able to have the pretty strong elite cannon galleons probably comes more in handy than other civilizations that you probably would never play on water. So that's the tier list. As you can see, right, there are the gunpowder civilizations in this game are just stacked toward gunpowder. Like, if you're not making gunpowder with Bohemians, right, you're probably playing the civ wrong, because you rather want to go Hussite wagon or hand cannoneer. Spanish conquistadors so popular. Turks. I didn't mention that Turks have Janissaries, right? So again, if you made a comment when I didn't mention it, the Janissary, right? I'm catching you right now in the comment section, right? I'm looking at you out there, right? Turkish Janissaries are very strong. They're like hand cannoneers, but they do more base damage, but they don't do the any bonus damage to infantry. But they're a very strong unit, and they have, I believe it's 8 range even in Castle Age, and that's fantastic. Again, range is so important. Janissaries are super awesome too, right? So if you're in the comment section, go ahead, delete your comment because you said I didn't mention Turkish Janissaries. I'm sure there's some things I've missed in this video, but that, my friends, is not going to be one of them. So since we're here near the end. But the gunpowder civs are the ones that are gunpowder civs are stacked. Italians, I think, are just like right on the edge. And then I think it becomes a pretty steep drop off. You have civs missing things like siege engineers, missing important technologies. It can get pretty tough. Once you get to the 4-star civs, you're starting to see some weaknesses start to open up. And again, with these, and what that means is, not to shun gunpowder, but to be aware that your gunpowder options are just going to be more limited. So you might have a good gunpowder option. You're just not going to have options across the range or the spectrum of gunpowder units. So that's the tier list video, right? I hope that these tier list videos help you structure your thinking as you're going into games about what your own civilization has, what your opponent has, and maybe how you can leverage that relative power advantage you might have, or mitigate a disadvantage you might have. And with that, if this video is helpful for you, right, go ahead, give it that like. It helps us out in our eternal battle against the algorithm. And if you like the channel, go ahead, right, follow, subscribe. We're a fast growing small channel here, and honestly, for me, I just think that that's so great because I love, reaching out and new people commenting, and and people who've been around for a while commenting too, and then the interaction between people. It's been really good so far, and let's continue. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep growing. And as always, right, I'm Jimmy James 59, and I'll see you out there on the ladder. Peace.